Scott Wedgewood has been one of the best goalies in the NHL to start this season, and Mackenzie Blackwood should be returning relatively soon to the Colorado Avalanche. So the question is, should Scott Wood be in contention for a tandem role, if not the starter for the Colorado Avalanche when Mackenzie Blackwood returns? What do we think? Has Wedgwood done enough to earn that opportunity?
I think there's a solid conversation for it, most definitely. When you're talking about a game, I mean, I feel like we reference the Utah game all the time at the beginning of the season as a game where the team in front of him is maybe not playing the best hockey, and yet you're standing on your head and keeping the guys in this thing. Anytime you can put on more than a couple performances like that, that kind of initiates the conversation for me. I think there are worse goaltenders in the league than Scott Wedgewood by a mile. And if this were a situation where they needed to rely on Wedgewood the entire season, I don't think they'd be in a horrible position.
I guess I'll disagree a little. I guess I'll disagree a little bit with the end of it. I think he's played obviously exceptionally well. But I would ask just to survey the crowd here. How many games do you think the Avs win if it's a different goaltender in net? This season, I mean, through the 7 that they've played so far, how different is their record if somebody else is in net?
I mean, who's in net? Because if it's Georgiev, it might be 0.
I mean Trent Miner.
At least 3.
You think they lose 3 games?
No, I think they win 3, at least.
Yeah, I think it's the record looks a lot different on the losses side of things if Trent Miner's in net.
I think I disagree. I think
the first
the Avs
Utah game for sure is, but
yeah,
the first Utah game is the one that I can point to and I say Wedgie bailed them out. The rest of them, I think he's been really good, but also they've been winning pretty comfortably, and that isn't to minimize the impact. It's just Wedgwood has kept them from his excellence has kept them from winning a game 3-2 instead of 3-1, for example. You know, like something like that kind of thing where they've dominated teams enough that I don't think it is. We're going to point to it and say Scott Wedgwood is carrying them. I think there's been one game this year where Scott Wedgwood was the first star. And other than that, he's just he's doing his job, right? He's not giving up easy goals, which is a really weird. It feels like a backhanded criticism of a goaltender, but I swear to God, it's the most desirable trait that you can have out of a guy. Don't give up soft goals. Don't give up easy ones. The Avs aren't giving a lot of great opportunities to opposing teams. And he's just making the handful of saves that he needs to every game. And he's kind of a chaotic enough goalie that 1 or 2 of those saves is a lot more fun to watch than it might otherwise be if a Blackwood was in net. But I there's no denying that Scott Wedgwood has been fantastic to start the season. But is he coming for Mackenzie Blackwood's job? I don't even think we're close.
I think the argument that I'll bring to the table then after that is we bring into a conversation about Alexander Georgiev and the team that the Avalanche were in front of him. And in turn, the confidence levels that you see across each line, each defensive pair, and the team kind of falling apart as a result. If your goaltender's not putting up a good game behind you, there's not much in terms of motivation on the other end of the ice. And there's that thought in the back of your head. If he's not going to make that easy save, then maybe I should be playing better on the back end. And that's in turn going to hurt offensive production. That I think is obviously there's a short sample size to go from as far as Trent Miner is concerned. And the games that he's played with the Colorado Avalanche maybe have not been the best examples, but that's almost the worry. And it's probably too much of a worry. And I'm looking too far into the future and being too cautious on it. But I almost worry if that's a situation you come into with a goaltender who's maybe not as experienced, and how much slack do I have to pick up becomes a question.
It's a fair point to say, well, how does a team play in front of a goalie that they trust? Because we saw, as you mentioned last year, we saw what happens when a team loses all trust in a goaltender. It's real bad.
Yeah.
But they definitely, like, they're clearly comfortable with Scott Wedgewood, and they clearly trust him. And he's, again, there's no denying that he has played really well to start the year. But you gave a 5-year deal to Mackenzie Blackwood for a reason. He's your guy. And Scott Wedgwood is the perfect analogy here is to just remember what Pavel Francouz was to Darcy Kemper in 2022. He's a great backup goaltender who can spot you some games, and he can probably give you 30 games, like comfortably give you 30 games in a traditional backup sense, because he's played all 7 to start the year. It might end up being a couple more than that by the end of the season. But I just, like, this isn't, like, let's just be honest here. This isn't your future. Scott Wedgewood's probably not an Av after this year. You know, he's approaching his mid-30s. Your top prospect is Ilya Nabokov that's coming over. It's already been agreed upon that he's coming from Russia to North America at the end of the year. He's not coming over to play in the AHL very long. Like, next year, the plan is that Nabokov is the backup goaltender. Wedgwood has done a really good job taking advantage of this opportunity and at least giving the Avs something to think about here. But right now, without a contract at the end of this year, he's auditioning for jobs. He's doing a great job at it. But one of those jobs is not starter for the Avalanche.
I think it's pretty clear Scott Wedgewood will not be the starter for the Colorado Avalanche when Mackenzie Blackwood comes back. No. And I don't want to discredit it. He hasn't lost a game in regulation in 7 months or something ridiculous. So that's very impressive. But, and this is 2 key things for me on why Wedgwood shouldn't be the starter. One, look at the quality of competition he's played in his entire tenure in the Avalanche. It's a lot of weaker teams, pretty typical backup stuff. The one high-quality team he's played this year was Dallas, and he got beat by Jake Ottinger in that game. Jake Ottinger was the better goaltender. The Avs ultimately lose it in a shootout. 2, when you look at his career, Scott Wedgewood has played to the 30-game mark once in his entire career, and it was one of the worst years of his career. He has not proven he can handle a not even a starter load, but a tandem level load across the course of his career. He's pretty much proven to be a career backup. I think we can safely rule out him being the starter, but can we get into a world where he's a tandem conversation? Can we do a relatively even split between Blackwood and Wedgwood when Blackwood returns?
We talk about him auditioning for jobs after this year. I think that's also something that could be argued that he's auditioning for. Now, despite Mackenzie Blackwood being a $5 million guy for the next few years, we all know how Jared Bednar loves to deploy his goaltenders. And if we're getting into if history is anything to go by, I don't think the tandem conversations happen, or the tandem situation happens nearly as much as I think it should. I think there's absolutely a conversation to be had when Mackenzie Blackwood eventually does make his return, that Scott Wedgewood has shown he is capable of keeping up with certain teams. And ultimately, that's going to take a lot of the pressure off of Mackenzie Blackwood to perform again and again, night in, night out, which, again, some could argue that's what you're getting paid $5 million to do in a system, and you know what you agreed to. But at the same time, I don't know if I'm Mackenzie Blackwood and I'm looking at how Scott Wedgewood is playing right now, I'm like, if that can make my job just a little bit easier on 1 or 2 nights every couple of weeks, I'm perfectly okay with that.
Also, competition's healthy. Yeah. Wedgwood playing this well puts pressure on Blackwood to, hey, this is an easy street, buddy.
Yeah.
It's not Alexander Georgiev back there that can't stop a puck. This is a guy that's rolling. If you're gonna get this job, it's because you actually have to do something with it. This is the standard of play that they're looking for from that position. They're just getting it from the guy that they didn't think they were going to get it from right away.
Which, if I'm the Avalanche too, that's not something I bargained for, but something I would gladly take.
You found money.
Feather in the cap for sure. Give me a number of games played that you think Scott Wedgewood, assuming reasonable health, ends this season with. He's already played all 7 of the Avs games. Blackwood's timeline is a little bit fuzzy, so there's going to be more starts for him coming. By game 82, how many games played for Scott Wedgewood?
33.
I'm going to say 29.
Are you Price is writing me?
No, well, I like Prices Right in myself. You said 33.
All right, fair enough.
Bailey, do you have a number for games played?
Oof. If he gets to 30, I will be happy.
Okay.
I think that's where I'd say I'd love to be ambitious and say 35 if he's going to earn his spot. But again, with history to go off of, I think if he gets to 30, I'd be happy with that.
So maybe not quite a full tandem role, but certainly chopping Blackwood's starter role down to about a 50 game. No heavy usage for him this season. Good spot to be in for the Avs. We're going to wrap up this conversation. Comment down below whether you think Wedgwood should be the starter, the backup, or how many games he should get. And make sure you check out our full podcast live 5 days a week here on DNVR Sports. We appreciate you. We'll see you in the next video.